so excited to make this big drug buy. And I walked through the room and I'm like, whew. I take a deep breath. And the guy steps behind me and I hear the door shut. I hear the lock snap. He has a debt he hasn't paid. He's clearly terrified. His life's been threatened. This dope's laid out to keep me calm, but they're probably gonna whack us all out. They'll take the dope, they'll take the money, they'll disappear back to Mexico. And I have to figure out how I'm gonna get out of here. I realize we're probably not gonna walk out of this room. He certainly ain't. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. In the southwest corner of Iowa. It's called Clarinda. I grew up with a blue-collar family. My dad worked in a factory where they built semi-truck transmissions, so he was a very hardworking guy. I think he probably worked 7 days a week most of his life. I remember when we were very young, my dad, the whole country had kind of gone through like a bit of a financial crisis. There was a lot of layoffs, a lot of unemployment, and my dad had lost his job at Eaton Corporation where he had been working for years. And he moved to Michigan. Now, coming from a small Midwest town and moving to a major metro like that, it was quite a change for my brother and I. We slept in a bedroom with bunk beds, and in the same room, two of my dad's buddies named Stanley and Garvin slept in bunk beds in our same room. And then my aunt slept on our couch, and my sister slept on my parents' floor. So we went from a lot of freedom to run and do what we wanted to a whole new world in a very small apartment, living in a community that had more crime. And we lived next door to a Kmart, and they had a check cashing place there. And I remember one night I thought people would go there to cash a check, and I think people would set up robbery. So someone had been robbed, and the police chased these people into our complex, and they'd had a little shootout in front of the complex. And the next few days, it was really quiet, and all the normal chaos of that complex kind of went away. And I remember seeing those cops come in, and they patrol through, and they had their blue uniforms and their white cars, and I thought that looked like an exciting job to have, but I was too young to really process it. But that was the first time I had ever considered like that might be something cool to do.
And why did you decide to join the police force in the end?
I took a job working in a jail. I had been about 19, and I started working there, and there I saw the deputies and the police officers bringing people into jail, and I would handle the booking and maybe have to like hand out meds and walk the cells, and it was just an experience to what I'd say the criminal world a little bit on the inside. I was young and small and definitely in no position or shape to be in a position of authority over them. So I started to really listen. When I did my walks or when I had engagements with these people, I would ask them about their crimes or how they had come to be in jail or why they were there. And there's where I really kind of learned the ability to talk, and I learned the ability to listen, I could learn a lot about each of these different kind of criminal minds because they were in a setting where they were contained, and I couldn't hurt them, and they were willing to express and talk to me, and they taught me things, One of the deputies had actually got arrested for child abuse, had been indicted and thrown in jail, rightfully so, and a couple of the other deputies, keep in mind this is a small sheriff's office, there's maybe 10, 11 deputies probably at the time. A couple of the other deputies had gone to other places to work, and at some point along the line, the sheriff was taking a testing process where you had to do a written test, a physical agility test. Back then, they had pretty good standards to enter into law enforcement at basic level, and I had managed to pass the test. He let me take the test, I don't think with any intention of hiring me, but just to give me a look at it, because he'd kind of taken a liking to me and kind of taken me under his wing and been like, you probably be a good deputy sheriff someday. He just called me into his office one day, get over here, I need to talk to you. He was kind of a gruff guy, and I figured I was probably in trouble or I'd left something unlocked or I'd done something wrong. He's like, sit down. I'm like, all right. And he's like, I called the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. He said, you're only 19, you can't own a gun and you can't buy ammunition. He said, but the sheriff's office can own your gun and we can buy the ammunition. And you're going to go to the police academy next week. You're starting next week. So I ended up going to the police academy, and there, you learn basic police stuff, and that's kind of how my career started, and that was my initial fascination with getting into it. I remember feeling like I was prepared. You get a badge placed on you, and that is it's a burden, but it also makes you feel kind of like Superman, It's like a badge of authority. You got this gun on your hip and all these mags full of bullets, and I got a bulletproof vest, and I feel like I'm ready to go.
How good in those early years did you become at reading people and getting a sense for anything that might be a bit, I guess, untoward?
That's a great question. So I'd gotten called to as an apartment complex where I'd been many times. And I remember the call come out that these two little kids had gotten into a sword fight. Or whatever it was, two little kids had gotten into a fight, and one of the parents wanted to press charges. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why would they even send me to this? But whatever, I mean, if I gotta go. I remember I roll in there, I'm already in my mind dismissing this call. I wanna leave, I don't wanna be here. I wanna go chase real bad guys. I don't wanna deal with whatever this is. There was a lady standing in the living room. She's standing up. There was a little girl about like 6 to 10 years old. And there was a guy wearing a tank top sitting in like a chair kind of like over here. And I didn't really care because it wasn't like a danger element in here. It wasn't something I need to be concerned. I mean, you always want to be concerned, but I wasn't looking for like someone gonna hurt me. I was trying to figure out how to get out of there as fast as I can. And basically the lady's like, these two kids were out in the playground and they picked up sticks and she smacked my kid with the stick, and I want the kid arrested. No kid's going to jail. I made my mind up about that. But I also remember the guy sitting over here. I remember his hands were kind of rubbing his legs like this. He was sweating, and when I would move, he would kind of move with me, but he wasn't trying to pay attention to it. He was always watching me, you know, and I thought that was unusual because there's no reason for him to be worried. And I'm like, look, lady, we're just gonna call this even. Kids fight, I'm not gonna arrest nobody. And I'm about to leave, and I'm looking at this little girl, and she's looking up at me. And I look at the little girl, I'm like, is that your dad? And she said no. And I don't think I can articulate what that look is or what that body language is, but talking about how you learn how to read the body language and read the room. And this guy sweating profusely, nervously looking at me the whole time, looking for his way out, and her all of a sudden wanting to disengage. I said, listen, I'm gonna talk to your little girl. I'm allowed to do that, by the way. That's not a violation of a parental right. I'm not gonna hurt her. I'm not gonna ask her incriminating questions. Something's wrong with her. So I take her into the side bedroom, which is their bedroom. The mom resisted a little, and she just opens up to me. And she describes, you shouldn't be able to describe that at her age, you know what I mean? Like sexual assault that had been happening to her for multiple years. And she let me know that the boyfriend sitting out there sweating profusely had been assaulting her for an ongoing period of time. And I called the child sex crimes detectives. We had detectives that could interview this little girl and extract that information, hopefully with doing the least amount of damage to her, but also collecting the evidence they needed to prosecute that case. And they came down, and it was pretty much a wrap. I mean, the guy ended up admitted that he had been doing it. The girl, you know, who knows? I'm sure, you know, nothing good comes of that, but at least learning to read the room and learning to read body language and learning to know your community and your neighborhood, put in a position to recognize that little girl was going through what she was going through. And I wonder how many times, you know, maybe she had tried to tell someone or had looked to someone before, or maybe didn't trust anybody. And for whatever reason, maybe just the way that I treated that room lended her that ability to say, I think I can trust this person to tell me. And that was a good moment for sure. So I got assigned to the Special Investigations Unit, and immediately I started asking about working undercover. Uniform patrol maybe picks up somebody and they've got an 8-ball of methamphetamine or cocaine or heroin or whatever kind of drug, and they decide that they have more to lose than the people that they buy their drugs from, and so they usually agree to become an informant for the government, and in exchange they'll get what's called maybe a downward departure or lessened sentence, or maybe no charges at all, and may just let them go away. And so we were constantly doing what's called controlled buys. This person had been arrested, the charges had been set aside, and they would set up deals to go buy these drugs with these people. And I started saying, hey, can I ride with them? Let me go with them. And I remember my lieutenant was like, what? I mean, yeah, I guess, you know, like I'd talk to the source, like, where are you going? How much do you pay? What happens when you're there? Would it be unusual for somebody to ride with you? And at first they were kind of like, well, I can't take anybody with me. And I'm like, why not? You've never taken anybody with you? Well, yeah, I mean, you can ride along. So I would just ride along. Pretty soon I was like, hey, let me buy the drugs. And my lieutenant was like, well, you think you can? I would go ahead, you know? So I started doing it. And I started out buying little stuff, like maybe a little rock of crack or some little teener of meth, or maybe some weed. Back then, weed was still illegal, so we'd buy it now and then. You know, usually I'd buy the weed just to get into the house and find out what else is in there, where the money was, where the guns was, where the real drugs were. I got really good at going into different neighborhoods, and we would have briefings. We'd talk about like, I'm not trying to brag on myself, not at all. I'm just saying, for whatever reason, I found myself able to fit in on the street with most anybody. And so I get a call from this guy named Greg, and he was a case agent with the FBI. He says, hey, this is Greg with the FBI. I understand you've been working in this community, and we have a large case. I think they call it what's called a CPOP. I mean, just like, it's multinational. Probably went down into Mexico and multiple states. It's a big conspiracy case we're working on. And he said, we have a high-level source that we've paid a lot of money to, and his life has been threatened. Basically, what I come to understand was this source, we'll call him Sanchico. Sanchico owned a car dealership, like a buy here, pay here car dealership in like the Spanish community. You can imagine how they all look, like big car dealership, work bays where you pull cars in and work on them. Cars on a lot for sale, like chain link fence around them. There's a lot of gang graffiti on one wall. There's an alley that runs down behind it. Pretty normal, but not someplace everybody can just walk into and go. But I was able to fit into these places fairly well. So he says, listen, our source has been bringing in drugs from Mexico. They unload them out of these vehicles, pull the fenders off, pull out the dope loads or whatever, and then he arranges purchasers to buy it from these guys, the cartel guys, basically. He goes, well, he set up a deal for like $50,000 or whatever amount of money it was, and it was a front. They basically gave him the dope, said, pay us when you sell it, and the guy never paid him, so the cartel had sent up what they call Sicarios, to like collect the debt. But they said, you don't owe us $50,000 now, you owe us $100,000. And so he had contacted the FBI, and the FBI was like, we're gonna get this guy safe, and then we're gonna flip him and make him work for us, and he'll help us with this cartel case. And he goes, but you have to do it today. And I'm like, well, I don't even know the source. I haven't met him. I don't know if I can do it today. He's like, well, we have to do it today because they're probably gonna kill him, or just, they're here, we have to do it now. And now I've been working long enough, and I've learned to read the room, and I've learned how to like read body language. I'm smarter, at least I think I am, to know that this is a bad idea. I should at least know the source. I should at least know how this car dealership works. I should know something about the bad guys. I should know what kind of dope it is and how much it should cost. I need to know more information, but the FBI called me, so I'm like, I shouldn't do this. I'll do it. I meet him in a parking lot, like roughly me and a couple of the guys that worked with me on my special investigations unit team that I was with, John and Zeb and these other guys, and they're like, hey, I think it was $12,000. At the time, it was like $12,000 for a pound of crystal meth. And Greg gets this money. It's a brand new money. And he gets it out to give it to me. And I'm like, that doesn't gonna look right. Like, I can't walk in with a banded up brand new bills. Like, I went to the bank and said, give me money so I can buy drugs. So I had long hair, and I always kept it banded up in hair ties. I'd had like probably at least 10 hair ties in my hair, this long kind of rat tail looking trashy thing down my back of my hair. And I said, give me the money, give me the money. And I said, took out some hair ties, and we have a security team usually on these buys in case we have to do a rescue, or there has to be, if it gets violent, sometimes you gotta stop the undercover and it has to shut down. I'm like, give me some, you got any money? Give me some money. And I'm trading out like hundreds and fifties and bigger bills to get some smaller bills and try to make it what I think is gonna look right. I get the money all banded up, and I got it in a thing. He's like, all right, don't worry. It's just gonna be you, this guy that's reporting, his name's Cesar Sanchez Gonzalez. And what am I supposed to call him? I said, call him Sanchico. I'm like, okay. Well, what's he look like? Oh, he's a Mexican dude. I'm like, well, down there in that neighborhood, everybody's a Mexican dude. But I'm like, it's just gonna be him and the other guy? And I'm like, I can probably figure that out. I know I shouldn't do this. I know this is a bad idea, but I don't want to say no to the FBI because, I don't know, it's exciting, you know? Drive to the car dealership, and as soon as I pull up, the bays are open and there's guys working there. There's probably at least 6 dudes. They're all Mexican guys working in their own cars, and they don't speak English. And I'm already confused. I'm like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to go or who I'm supposed to talk to. And I'm realizing this is a bad idea, but I keep doing it. And I'm walking through, I'm like, Sanchico. And I see this guy like nod at me like this, and he's standing at an open door to the office, but it's kind of dark and I can't see. Remember, he had a nice button-down shirt with a collar, had a little alligator on it, you know, I can't think of what that, lacrosse, I think it's called or whatever. And he looks well dressed, and I'm like, that must be San Chico, you know. He's been ordering up all these huge loads of drugs. They come in here, and here he is, all right. And I confidently walk right into the room. And I step into the room, and I can't wait to just make this buy, you know. I'm so excited to make this big drug buy. And I walk through the room, and I'm like, whew. I take a deep breath, and the guy steps behind me, and I hear the door shut. I hear the lock snap. There's a guy standing right here, and there's a big desk, you know, like you'd imagine in the office type space. And there's another guy over here, and there's a guy wearing all black. Man, I remember him. He's just an intimidating guy. I swear his eyes were black. His shirt was black. His pants were black. He had black hair. He was just a scary-looking guy. He had some nice jewelry on. And there's a roller chair, which should be behind the desk, right? And it's backed into the corner over there. And I'm like, I know the roller chair doesn't go there. And the guy over there, talk about reading the room and reading body language. He is looking straight ahead, and he has his hands on the chair like this, and he's leaned back. And he's breathing hard, and I can see his neck pulsating, the carotid artery in his neck's just bouncing, and I can see he's terrified. And on the desk is a white Tupperware container. It had like a white, there was a little grocery store nearby, like, you know, anything like a Dollar General type bag or whatever, but his white plastic bag was rolled down, and there was this white Tupperware container and a red lid flipped on the side. And I had seen a lot of methamphetamine by this time. I'd been buying quite a bit of it, but there was shards of crystal meth in there like that long and like that big around, like big around my wrist. I was literally like, for a second, like, holy shit, man, like, whoa, we're really in it now, you know, like this might as well be Pablo's shit for sure, because this is a big deal. And I realized, I'm like, I ain't walking out of this room, man. Like, they didn't invite me in here to buy this dope. Like, he has a debt, he hasn't paid, he's clearly terrified, his life's been threatened. This dope's laid out to keep me calm, but they're probably gonna whack us all out. They'll take the dope, they'll take the money, they'll disappear back to Mexico, they'll collect the debt, he'll be taken off. And I have to figure out how I'm gonna get out of here. I realize we're probably not gonna walk out of this room. He certainly ain't. And so I pick up the shard of meth, and I'm like, whoa, oh my, that's what I'm talking about, San Chico. I'm like, that's what I've been looking for. And I put it back in the thing. I remember it left this like kind of white dust on my hand, and I was amazed. I looked over and like, San Chico, that's what I'm talking about. And I did like a knuckle bump with him, because I'm guessing that's him. Luckily it was. He's like, see. And it's dead silence. No one's talking. I'm loud. No one's talking. I'm like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, who's the man? Who's getting paid? And I pull out one of the amounts of money. I'm like, well, you ain't the man. And I turn around, and the guy behind me, he's got the door locked, right? I'm like, you better start counting money. And he's like, he walks over to the desk, and he takes the rubber band off. I got it folded up, you know, and he starts counting money. And I'm like, well, you ain't the man. You better count money too. I hand it to that guy. And now he's standing at the desk. Now I got two guys counting money, and the guy in all black I know is the man. I look at him. I'm like, you have any more of this? And I don't think he speaks perfect English. He definitely doesn't, but I know he understands what I'm saying. He knows we're going to negotiate. I said, this is the best shit I've ever seen in my life. I can have this gone in an hour. I need more. I'll come right. I have 40 grand. I have another 40 grand. I'll go get it. Now, the plan worked great. Luckily, you know, I went against all of my best knowledge and my best experience, and I did that recklessly, and it worked. They left. They actually went to get another pound of dope. And when they were coming back, the task force officers and Greg and the FBI people pulled them over. And those people were removed from that scenario. And San Chico became my friend. And he became Greg's friend, and he became our friend. And we would meet with him all the time. We would eat lunch with him. And he'd start to really tell us how the cartels worked, and how these loads would come in, and how they would break them down, and how they would have stash houses with money counting machines and packaging here and different kinds of cards that bring them in. They really gave us the details and the workings of this. And I got to know San Chico, and I had met his wife, and I'd seen his children around. I knew the cars that she drove, and I was able to go in and out of the neighborhood and in and out of that dealership regularly, because I had been embraced by him. He felt I had saved his life. I don't know that I saved his life, but he felt that way. And then one time I remember this guy named 21. I had been buying methamphetamine from him, and we had already put together a large case on him. I think the reason we were still even buying from it all is you want to identify, like, how do they launder the money, and who else is involved, how far does this organization go, who does it tie to, you know, who in the U.S. is involved, who in Mexico is involved. It's a very large greater scale thing. There's a wiretap going. We're listening to different phone lines and monitoring communications. And I'm having great success and I'm having fun doing this. And 21 has basically been indicted. He's not been indicted, but there's more than enough drugs to indict him. And I've seen him regularly. And Greg calls and says, the source says, hey, 21's got like 60 keys of cocaine. And he wants to find a buyer for. Greg told me, he said, don't buy it. It's not that you don't want to buy the drugs on the street, but it doesn't benefit the case any. It just starts to waste money. But I was sitting in my truck and I had a vest in the back seat, just like a kit, had maybe a couple magazines and some all it had was, it just said police on it. It was a real light kit. It just had a bulletproof vest, it said police on it, and I think it had some handcuffs in it. I didn't really use it much. It was just laying in my back seat. And I was kind of laid back just listening to, we had a transmitter in the room, so Greg and Paris, the other guy, could listen to the drug deal going down. First car shows up, 2 dudes are in the front seat, and there's some other guys in the car. And this is unusual now, and things look different. So I leave my position, I just drive by. I'm gonna go by the car dealership just to get an eye on what's happening, because you can tell that the whole team was kind of like, something's off, you know what I mean? Like they don't look normal. And as I drove by, the car sitting in front of the car dealership, it was parked in the street, and the 2 guys in front had gotten out. It was summer, it was hot out, and they had hooded sweatshirts on. And the guy in the backseat got out. I remember he had a purple and yellow, if I remember right, purple and yellow hooded sweatshirt on, and he got out and he put his hood up. And I saw him reach down into the waistband of his pants. And instead of going to the dealership, he walked down the alley on the backside. I got on the radio and I was like, hey, something's off here. This is gonna be a rip. Rip means they're gonna rob him. Something's gonna go down. And by the time I had come around the next corner, I could hear the gunshots. Boom, 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 just going off. And I hear Greg get on the radio and he's like, shoot out, shoot out, shoot out. And as I come up to the stop sign, I seen the guys running, like the guy from the alley was running back, the dudes from in the building were running, they were jumping in a car, and one of them was shooting back at the building. You could see the dust on the brick, like when a bullet hits a like red brick wall, it's like you could see it. Like it was just very surreal. It was like you could hear the gunshots, but the visual was even wilder. It looked like seeing a movie, like they just robbed an armored car. You know, they're running out of the building and they're doing a U-turn and they're boom, 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 they're shooting in the building, and they come flying right by me. Like I'm not very far away, and so I see him jump in the car and they come flying by me, and I'm like, I'm just gonna hold here. I just got to think about what's happening. Like everybody's gonna be on those guys. I didn't know who they are, but I don't like. Where's 21? Where's San Chico? And who else is involved? Like I don't know what's happening. I just know there's shootings happening and this stuff's happening. And here comes 21, and no one's tailing him. No one's watching him. And so I just get behind him, and we come up to this hilltop, and he brakes and he lets off, and he brakes and lets off. I can't see what's beyond the hill, but obviously he can. And we crest the hill. Those guys that had done the robbery had taken off, and our agents and our task force guys were chasing them, and they'd taken a wide turn and hit a car head on. And so the intersection was kind of blasted out, and 21 was going toward them, our people. I don't know that he was gonna hurt them, I don't know, but he was driving toward them. He didn't turn around to leave, he went toward them. And I saw Paris and Greg standing outside, and I could tell, visually I could see that they were pointing their rifles at people, and they were giving commands, and there was a lot of chaos happening. All I had was it's called a Glock 36. Glock Model 36 only holds 6 rounds. And it doesn't take other magazines from other Glocks. It only holds this one single stack of 6 rounds. That's not really what I want to get in a gunfight with, but it's what I got. So I kind of cut off 21, and I get out, and I have him at gunpoint, and I grab him and put him on the ground. And RJ comes up and starts handcuffing him, and I go around to where I can see that the cars have hit each other head on. And I mean, it looked like Miami Vice. There's cocaine powder all over. There's smoke coming out of radiators. They came across a radio and they said San Chico was dead, so they'd killed him. They shot him in the office. That's how my relationship with San Chico ended right there. Like that was the end of his day and our time together.
How did you feel knowing that he'd died?
That's a good question too. I felt bad. I kind of felt like it was a little bit of our fault. I mean, as much as I love the adrenaline, I think he had learned to love the idea of like working for something good and trying to be there. I liked the guy, and I don't know if I should like him. I liked him. I liked him, and I felt bad that he was dead. I don't think that was necessary, but it's just the way it is. It's the street, I guess. It's just rough. I had to have a top secret clearance, and I had to have basically like the authority to work under the jurisdiction of the FBI. There's FBI agents in the undercover program, and then there was what I was called a TFO. And that's because if you think about like, I had local knowledge and local street knowledge and knowledge of different kinds of things, you know, where agents are moved around the country more and they're less maybe versed in their community. So it works good if we work together, we can make a greater impact nationally and globally. So basically the canvas comes out and they're looking for someone that can infiltrate a motorcycle club, an outlaw motorcycle club. I grew up around a bike club and close to the community that I lived in. And then when I was a small rural deputy sheriff, we had a bike club there that was an outlaw club. And over the time, I'd got to extract information about that. How do these work? You know, how does prospecting work? How does getting into a club work? What does this mean? What does that mean? There's a lot. They're infiltrated a lot. They're targeted a lot. They're on social media a lot. People are fascinated by bike clubs. I mean, who wouldn't be, you know? They're a wild bunch. And they're very noticeable. They wear their cuts on them, you know? It's that they're identified by most law enforcement agencies as an outlaw organization, and they don't mind being identified that way. They've got the 1% patch. They've got their rocker, their state. I mean, they're saying, this is who I am and this is where I'm from. Pretty bold. And so I go to work on a case out in California with one of the top 10 clubs, and they had a source that they wanted to have introduce me because they have been infiltrated so much. You can't just walk into their clique of people and they're like, oh yeah, come on over, Dutch, nice to meet you. What can we do? You know, that's not how it's gonna work. I knew that I was gonna be asked a lot of questions. I knew there was gonna be a lot of scrutiny over me and where I'd came from, what I'd done. So I took the due diligence this time. I said, I wanna meet the source. I'm not just gonna show up and be like, hey, shake hands, I'm you, you're you, let's go do this. I insisted that we spend some time together, just he and I, and we got to talk about, where did you grow up? What are you about? What are these tattoos on you? What does that mean? Where'd you get this? Are you married? Do you have kids? What do you do for work? Where do you live full time? Why do you know these guys? But he's scared. You know, I mean, he's decided to become a source. He doesn't want to do that necessarily, but he's put himself in a position, like I said, where apparently he has less to lose than they do, so he's willing to introduce this government undercover employee to infiltrate his buddies, you know, his brothers. And we spent a lot of time. He'd come up with the name Bones. He said, I'm gonna introduce you as Bones. I'm like, okay. I didn't like that name very well, but okay. So it's our first day. I rented a Jeep Cherokee. I knew I was coming from out of town. I was gonna buy methamphetamine from a person who was predicated that I knew. I'd seen pictures of these guys, you know, they're most of them have been in prison or jail, and so I had seen mugshots and different things of them. And when you see a one-dimensional picture of somebody, like, that's a pretty scary looking dude, but I'm ready for this. You know, I look like I'm a pretty tough guy, I guess, at the time I thought anyway. So we roll up to this gate, and I'm thinking he's gonna punch the button and we're gonna drive right in, and I'm like, oh, Bones is so happy to see you, you know, this will be great. This will be great. Maybe we'll cook some chicken on the grill and we'll drink some beers and we'll get to go, we'll ride motorcycles. Nope, he doesn't know the code. And now, so right away, I'm like, why don't you know the code? Oh, they never told me. And I'm like, the guy that's supposed to introduce me, the guy that's my lifeline, the guy that's gonna tell my story and give me credibility, can't even get in. He pushes the button. Hey, it's so-and-so. I was like, yeah. Gates starts to open up. We pull through, it closes back, we park at the bottom of the stairs, and there's a guy comes down and meets us right off the bat. And he's I think he's the president at the time. And he's like, hey, brother, because the guy that's introduced me is a member. He's a full member. They say their hellos, they do a brotherly thing, and my guy says, this is Dutch. And I'm like, we didn't talk about this. Have you been calling me Bones the whole time and you just introduced me as Dutch, or have you been calling me Dutch the whole time? We haven't had a chance, because I have assumed, again, thinking I know what's gonna happen, that he's introduced me as Bones and I'm ready to be Bones. And he's like, this is Dutch. And I'm like, oh, shit. He didn't know the gate code and now he called me Dutch. All right, my confidence is too high and I'm not willing to back out of this. I still wanna do it. And I'm kinda getting nervous, but we're making it. He turns around, he's like, come on, let's come upstairs. And I remember he had these pressed raw denims on, cool looking guy. And he was a pretty fit guy. He had a real short cropped shaved head. And he turns around to walk away, and he's got eyeballs tattooed on the back of his head. Not like crazy looking fun eyeballs, like the ones that are like they're looking at me. He's walking up the stairs. I'm like, oh man. I don't know why I got in my head, he's walking with got eyes in the back of his head. Makes sense. We go upstairs. We start to have a little more conversation about where'd you come from? We ain't even talking about drugs or anything criminal yet. He's just deciding if he even wants to let me have a conversation with them, I think, and they're just kind of rehashing out who I am and why I'm there. And he says, why don't you go downstairs and meet my enforcer? But the enforcers are the guys that, like, when stuff needs to be taken care of, they're the ones that take care of it, I'm going to say they're probably, if there's violence needs to be done, it's done. Someone needs to get picked up, they get picked up, whatever. They're the guy you don't want to really meet if you don't have to, I'm pretty sure. Go downstairs, and the door to this apartment's open. It's dark in there. It's sunny outside. There's people running around. There's pit bulls running around. And this guy with the eyeballs on the tab says, hey, says this guy's name, get out here. Hey. And he says, what, motherfucker? And I'm like, I can't see. It's dark in here, It sounds like God's voice coming out of that place. And I'm like, well, it sounds like a scary looking guy. Always when you see pictures of people, usually like when I'm going on these cases, I've made up in my mind like what they're going to look like and how scary they're going to be. And usually I'm like, that's not that bad. This day, like every time I met somebody, I'm like, oh shit, man, it's worse than I ever thought it was going to be, And there's this guy. What, motherfucker? He comes walking to the door. He's got no shirt on. His head's shaved short too. And he's got a tattoo of a skull. And I think the teeth came pretty close, like down almost over his eyes. And he had this state of California tattooed around his jawbone with a number in it, was their number. Comes walking out. He's got this big old pit bull. He comes walking out ahead of him. And he's kind of makes his way around in three of us. And he walks right up to me and he starts stiffing me. And I'm like, oh man, dude, like, I ain't even seen who's in the room yet, and this dog doesn't like me. Like, he knows I'm a cop for sure. This ain't gonna go well, and out walks this big dude. What? He's like, Dutch is here. Oh. What's up, Dutch? Gives me a hug. Braces me. And I'm like, okay. Whatever the source has been telling them has been made its way around, and I'm safe right now. And he turns around to walk away, and I believe in God, but I'm not super spiritual. And he's got this tattoo on his back. It's a big mural of Jesus, and it's flipping you off. And I believe it says "No Mercy" across the back of his shoulders. And I'm like, oh man, dude, like this is my first 10, 15 minutes in this case, and everybody I met is scary and intimidating. The problem with that is when you're working undercover is I now have established somewhat of a credibility and trust with the guy with the eyeballs. I've got somewhat established a relationship with the guy with the skull, the enforcer. And a couple of the other guys are like, that's Dutch and that's the guy and he buys dope. That's what he does. But every time somebody new comes around, they would ask you a question which may not be interrogating, but if you remember your identity, hey man, where'd you go to school at? You know the name of your school you went to, how old are you? Well, in this case, I was actually, I think, 2 years older than I actually was. So when someone says, hey man, how old are you? 38, 40. What? What do you mean 38, 40? What are you, 38 or 40? I mean, like somebody can be asking you a question and unknowingly, they're not interrogating you all, they're just trying to make conversation, but you weren't prepared for it. So the more people that come around, the more people that you meet, the more chance there is for you to get exposed or for someone. I mean, maybe the guy who asked the question didn't pick up on it, but maybe one of the other guys, the enforcer guy who's actually sitting back, as I said, reading the room might be like, this Dutch didn't answer that question very well. You got to be prepared for that, and I wasn't always.
How do you deal with the mental pressure of having to be on all the time?
A lot of drinking. I mean, seriously, it is very intense. Like, being on all the time, that's the thing. Like, the problem is you're never off. Even when you go home, that's a dynamic we've never talked about before is like, I'm in this environment, right? Like we're talking about these biker guys and all these cartel guys, everything I'm around. And when you go home at night, like you can't just flip the switch off. Like your adrenaline has been pumping so hard and you finally got that done, but there's no debrief. There's no come down, right? It's just go home and go back to your family and start doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like, the problem is now you're nervous. I mean, you start to feel like a bad guy. I'm checking my mirrors all the time when I go to If I got to go drop the kids off, I maybe spin around a couple of times, make sure nobody's tailing me. I had 6 different cell phones, 3 different laptops. I think I had a motorcycle in my garage. I had a pallet full of Newport 100 cigarettes. I had a Cadillac truck. I had other kinds of cars. Like there's nothing about my life when I wasn't working that was normal, you know?
And when you've got like 6 different cell phones, you've got, you know, Dutch, you've got Bones, how do you manage all of those different identities? Where do you find yourself?
Interesting enough, when the guy gave me the nickname Dutch, I became Dutch from then on. As far as like who Dutch is at home and at work, I know I'm covered in tattoos and I look like a menace and all that stuff, but this is the real me. The high and tight and the pressed uniform guy, that was who I pretended to be so I could get to be here, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to be this person, good or bad.
A lot of what I've heard about, like, 1% Club, Hell's Angels, they, like, people that are in those gangs clubs, they say that they're not affiliated with any, you know, criminal activity. What was the, I guess, like, conclusion of your time undercover there? Did you bust people?
Yeah. And I worked more than one club. I worked a couple of different clubs, and I don't know that it's a popular opinion with law enforcement, you know, because I think the opinion is that if you're in a club, you're part of an organized crime group, and you're trouble, and that's that. My experience was just like anything else, there's different levels, right? I think some guys are willing to go really far, and that may even mean being indicted and thrown in prison. And other guys like, hey, I'm just not willing to go that far. I won't do anything for my brothers, but I don't really want to go to prison for your shit.
Where did the guy with the eyeball tattoos end up?
The main guy went to prison for 20 years. And I have had communication with him out, not directly. He and I haven't spoke directly, through a mutual person that we both know who was part of this group of people, had told me that, I hope it's true. He said, you know, he's just got out of prison. He knows who you are. He knows what he did. He wanted to tell you, like, he's where he was because he got himself there, not because of you did. You didn't entrap me. You didn't try to, you know, blow this up. In fact, I tried to keep his sentence lower because he was a drug dealer. He wasn't involved in all the other stuff. We're all capable of doing bad things, right? I mean, imagine if, like, your kid was starving. And we all say, well, I would kill for my children. Well, would you deal dope for your children? Would you get involved in a club for your children? You know, I think we all, even if we say we're a good person, we potentially could do some level of crime if we thought it was necessary, if we justified it in our own head. And I think good people, they do some really bad shit sometimes too. And sometimes the only difference is one gets caught and one don't.
How long has it been since you retired from law enforcement?
I retired in 2016. And I didn't have to retire. I remember, this is a story I'll tell, and I mean, after 20 years, I'd finally hit my wits' end. I was starting to feel really pulled apart, lots of anxiety, lots of just uneasiness, and I walked into my unit supervisor. I said, I'm done, I'm never coming back. It was a Wednesday. He said, what do you mean, you're taking the rest of the day off? Well, you're busy with shit. You got a whole bunch of shit going on around the nation. I'm like, no, I'm never coming back again. Give me a packing list on Friday, I'll be in to turn in, I'm never coming back. And he said, shut the door. I said, okay, he shut the door, he goes, did we break you? I said, no. You never asked me to do anything I couldn't say no to. I said, but I never said no. Even when I knew I should, I never said no. And he sat back and he goes, I get it. You're tired of the bad guys. I said, no, I can't tell the difference between the good guys and bad guys anymore. And I said, that's a problem. I'm just done. I said, I don't want to figure it out. I'm just done now. And that was that.
You walked away.
Yep.
How do you find that sense of adrenaline?
I don't need it anymore, I don't think. You know, I still ride dirt bikes and I go off-roading and I do some pretty wild stuff, adventurous like things, you know, but I have learned, I have a more fulfillment now and like maybe I like to share my experiences and maybe try to pass along. Don't be such a narcissistic, sociopathic human being, like embrace and appreciate people who love you and love them back, you know, a little more of that. Like with my own children and my relationships, you know, I try to treat them better. I think I've taken that from it. I don't know, maybe there's something for me yet, but now I enjoy peace. So that's where I'm at with it.
I'll never forget the underboss was a towering individual with some, like intimidating features where he just stared at you and go, all right, tell me, who are you? Where are you from? And as I'm staring at him, I'm trying to focus on his eyes, and I'm looking past him, and there's a bloody apron from a butcher. There's a meat cleaver, a bone saw, a fillet knife, and I have 5 recorders on me. Every day it was like, today's gotta be the day. They gotta find out. They gotta know. They gotta figure it out. They have to. They're not that stupid. These guys are brilliant minds. They truly are. They just chose a life of crime.